proposes serious power sector reforms to deal with systemic challenges affecting effectiveness of the Energy Sector Levy Act, ESLA. And a family of 39-year-old man demand justice following a gruesome killing in the Sherigu forest in the Bolgatanga Municipality of the Upper East region. We have details of these and many more coming up shortly. Please do stick and stay with us. My name is Judith Brown. Welcome once again. In our first story, the Ghana Cocoa Board has begun making payments to licensed buying companies, LBCs, to enable them to clear outstanding arrears owed cocoa farmers for beans already delivered. Or the move follows mounting concerns over prolonged payment delays, which left many farmers unpaid for several months and triggered warnings about the sustainability of the cocoa sector. Cocoa Board has been accused of owing LBCs more than 10 billion cedis for cocoa already taking over, a development that significantly constrained the company's cash flow and limited the ability to pay farmers promptly. However, the Cocoa Board says that it has made substantial disbursements in recent months to ease the situation. First, let's listen to the coordinator of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform, Obed Owusu-Ade, speaking on the development.
The problem within the cocoa sector, especially the financing challenge, is not a today problem. To attempt to deal with it as a today problem is where we are having a challenge. We need to look about 2-3 years back. What was the existing situation? How come 2-3 years ago farmers were not complaining, but now there is this problem of farmers complaining of farmers not being paid? That was because there was a political decision to change the financing arrangement that existed. And I must put on record that for our civil society, when that decision was made, we applauded it. We thought it was a bold decision to move away from syndication into raising funds from the chocolate companies, from the traders to purchase the cocoa. We think in the future that is the way to go. The problem, however, Portia, is that in between time, there was no stopgap measure put in place to absorb some of the shocks that this new financing arrangement was going to bring. And that is what has brought us to this challenge right now.
Meanwhile, the Parliamentary Committee on Food and Agriculture, as well as Cocoa Affairs, has engaged officials from the Ghana Cocoa Board to discuss critical matters relating to operations. The engagement took place on Thursday, February 5. While the Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board, Dr. Ransford Abbey, explained that ongoing reforms under a proposed new Cocoa Board Act would introduce a new pricing mechanism, a revised funding model, and a stronger value addition strategy aimed at improving farmer incomes and ending persistent under-recoveries. Well, Evelyn Tingma is a correspondent, and she's at the media engagement and joins me on the line for more. Evelyn, good afternoon. Now, we hear that the Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board, Dr. Ransford Abbey, has been speaking. Exactly how is he addressing the concerns of the LBCs and the farmers?
Yeah, so Judith, and basically he is saying that they are fully aware of the issues that are going on in the cocoa sector, and they appreciate very seriously the concerns being raised by the farmers and what the farmers are going through. And so that they are also appreciative of the fact that, or the concerns raised by the license buying companies in terms of liquidity and all that, and said that Cocoa Board and the Ministry of Finance and government are working together to finance or to find a solution to the issue as soon as possible. So he is saying that they are very much aware and they are working assiduously to address the situation. And he also said that Cocoa Board started having the financial issues way back in 2022 when Cocoa Board was unable to service both the interest and principal of the cocoa bills. And so therefore they asked for a restructuring of that particular bill. And so since the 2023-2024 crop season, Cocoa Board struggled to get the syndicated loan. And so the interested or international buyers were unable or were aware of Ghana's challenges and so they decided to show reluctance in financing the crop. And so that is the reason we are having some of these issues as of now. But he is saying that the Finance Ministry, Cocoa Board and government are working closely to addressing the challenge.
Oh, unfortunately, we lost Evelyn Tingma on the line. She will try and reconnect with her because we want to know, of course, whether or not there's any indication that there will be some full payment to the LBCs. But that's on the cocoa sector. Let's move ahead and do some more stories because the Accra High Court has granted lawyers of Vehicle Embossment Association of Ghana's plea to serve hearing notice to Original Manufacturing and Embossment Company Limited, the second defendants in the suit against DVLA. Well, the plaintiffs, VMAC, have been seeking to restrain DVLA from rolling out a digital or any new vehicle number plate registration system. Despite being joined to the suit, Original Manufacturing and Embossment Company, the single party contracted by DVLA for their new registration system, failed to show up in court on Friday for the case. Well, my colleague Lord Eduasare is there and joins me on the lines now with more details on this. Lord, now tell me, what can you report from the court?
Well, Judith, you recall that the last time we were in court about 2 weeks ago, or last week actually, lawyers of the Original Manufacturing and Embossment Company, the sole contractor of DVLA for the new number plate registration system, they filed a joint application to be joined as defendants in the matter. That request was granted, and so today the hearing was supposed to continue where they're supposed to make their arguments after the lawyers of VMAG, the plaintiffs in the matter, should have served them the processes. Now, in court today, the lead counsel for VMAG indicated to the court that despite the fact that they had served the processes to the Original Manufacturing and Embossment Company, they had no representation in court today and without any reason whatsoever to the court. And so they prayed the court for them to be granted leave to file a hearing notice to the second defendant so they may not have any excuse or reason when the case is heard at the next adjourned date. And so this request was granted by the High Court judge. And so the case has been adjourned to February 13 for continuation. But spoke to the PRO of VMAG to give a bit more context because, again, somewhere last week we spoke to the DVLA Chief Executive, Julius Nikwe, where he was giving context as to why he didn't get the reason VMAG was in court trying to get an injunction to restrain them from executing the new registration system when they were part of when the contractors themselves were part of the association in the first place. So you can take a listen to him, Judith.
Well, we'll bring you that sound much later. But what's the next step in regards to this legal battle, Lord?
Well, the injunction application is yet to be heard. The processes have now been served to the defendants, and so at the next adjourned date, we will hear what the court has to say regarding the injunction, and then the substantive itself will move on to that. And so there's still quite a number of things that the court will consider as far as this case is concerned.
Right, Lord May, thanks for your time. He has been giving us all the details as regards to DVLA and the issue in court currently. Now let's do some more stories. And the Accra Center for Energy Policy is proposing serious power sector reforms to deal with some systemic challenges that have affected the effectiveness of the Energy Sector Levy Act. Well, that's despite several amendments by government in the last 10 years. Well, the think tank noted that there are structural problems hindering effective management, noting how securitization and other measures have failed to address the principal energy sector debt. Well, Christian Yali participated in the roundtable evaluation of the act and joins me on the lines now with more detail. Christian, now first talk to us through some of the amendments ELSA has undergone and what ACEP is proposing.
All right, Judy. So what we know is that over at least the last 1 decade when this law was enacted, there have been a number of amendments. Notably amongst them has been the 2017, 2019, 2021, and then the last one we had last year, which is the 2025 amendment. Now, throughout these amendments, there have been some takeaways and additions. I know that in the 2025 amendment, for instance, the new law or amendment consolidated 4 of the levies. Notable amongst them have been the Energy Debt Recovery Levy, as well as the Energy Sector Recovery Levy. And then there is the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, and even the Sanitation and Pollution Levy. So all of these levies, per the last amendment in 2025, were consolidated. But despite all of these, ACEP is of the view that there are systemic challenges in the power sector that have not been dealt with. Now, they are of the view that there are principal debt. What we know is that as of March 2025, Ghana was owing about $3.1 billion in the power sector or in the energy sector alone. And so they are of the view that there should be better reforms in the sector to ensure that these debts are catered for. We can take a listen to Dr. James Ofori, who is the policy lead for climate change and green transition for the ACEP.
It's falls short of addressing various systemic issues that plague the power sector, which we need to really do a good reform out of it. And I've seen some interventions that are coming from governments around procurement and other key interventions within the sector. But I think there's more room for improvement, and it's just to show that some of the issues that we've raised around the management and then the allocation of funds around ESLA still begs a lot of question around how maybe the ESLA PLC and those other issues introduce a lot of costs around the management of it, and we are happy to see the consolidation of the funds into one window to deal with the debts and then the shortfalls management.
Well, Chris, you're still with us. Now tell us, losses in the power sector alone have been significant. How do we navigate this?
Exactly. So he is of the view that going forward, just beyond pushing money into the ESLA or into the various accounts, there is that need to ensure that what he terms as strategic or structural reforms in the sector are undertaken. We can take a listen to him yet again, mentioning that beyond all of those, the losses must be dealt with. There should be proper accountability and transparency in the levy and its management even. We can take a listen to him.
The levy has been restructured several times, and I mean, it's not really about restructuring the levy, it's about dealing with systemic issues. And as I mentioned, 2015, when ESLA was introduced, we had losses of about 23%, as in distribution losses of 23%. 2025, March, thereabouts, we were recording losses in the 30s, right? So what kind of restructuring can you still do? What kind of new arrangements can you still do? How much can you still add to the frame, without dealing with the losses? You still recover, you still get a lot of under recoveries, you still get a lot of structural defects, so in the phase where structural issues are not dealt with, you will continue to do restructuring, but that may not necessarily solve the power sector challenges.
Well, many thanks for your time. Christian Yali has been speaking to us on that particular issue. Let's do one of our headline stories now. And in less than 24 hours, the National Democratic Congress delegates in the Ayawaso East Constituency will head to the polls to elect the party's parliamentary candidate ahead of the March 3 by-election. Well, the contest has generated a heightened anticipation and intense political activity on the ground, with 5 aspirants vying for the slot. Our reporter is currently in the constituency, gauging the mood of delegates, party supporters and residents as early signals point to a race dominated by Hajia Amina Adams. Well, a new poll by Global Info Analytics places Hajia Amina Adams, the widow widow of the late Ayawaso East MP, Mahama Nasser Toure, firmly in the lead with 58% voter preference, opening a significant 26-point advantage over her closest challenger, Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Baba Jamal, who trails with 32%. We're going to head to our reporter shortly, but first, let's look at some of the graphics, the specifics from the Global Info Analytics poll. And from what the Global Info Analytics poll is saying, Hajia Amina is to poll 58% in that particular by-election, and they're expecting that Honorable Jamal polls 32%, Honorable Mohammed will poll 5%, Dr. Yakubu 3%, and Najib 2%. So those are the specifics coming in from Global Info Analytics as regards to the voters' preference for the by-election that is set to happen there in the Ayawaso East Constituency. Now we're going to try and gauge the mood right there in the constituency where my colleague George Quening is joining us now. George, if you can hear me, in less than 24 hours, delegates will decide the fate of some 5 aspirants. What's the mood among the NDC rank and file in the constituency?
I must say it's quite peaceful here. And most of these aspirants, of course, are banking their hopes on the investment they've made into these campaigns, hoping that at the end of the day, we'll get some results. So the first people that I spoke to was the camp of Baba Jamal. And, there's this post that is suggesting that the wife of the late MP is going to win, Hajia Amina. And the camp has actually disputed that. And they are saying this very post is born out of allegations. And he's actually daring Musa Dankwa to actually reveal the full details of this very post. Of course, it's actually against them, so clearly. But if you go to the camp of Amina, they are actually welcoming this very post, but they are just not going to rely heavily on that. They will still work like there's not been any release of post. So that's what it is. But the electorate, or the delegates, I should say, are actually looking out for someone who can actually transform the constituency. Because if you talk about Ayawaso East, it's probably noted for violence, notorious activity. So they want someone who can actually reorient and transform that very constituency. So this is exactly what the delegates are looking at for Judith.
Okay, and does it look like Hajia might be getting all the votes, 58%, has been?
Most of the people that I spoke to say sympathy vote to work out for it, because, in instances where, spouses have died, people that would want to take over that position get sympathy vote. And also, the husband has actually taken her through that politics, and so it was carefully planned that when he's no more, the wife would follow his stead. And so clearly most of the delegates have bought into that, and so it was actually planned that those days they will come. And so it's more like continuation. So if you go to the camp, they'll say Hajia Chia, so more like continuing from the husband's past whatever he's an achievement.
Right, many thanks for your time. George Quening has been speaking to us from the constituency where the by-election is set to happen. Meanwhile, Baba Jamal Alaji, the spokesperson for Baba Jamal, who is considered one of the 2 frontrunners, has challenged the findings of Global Info Analytics survey. Let's take a listen.
Well, because what he did has nothing to do with any investigation. Musa Dankwa didn't do any investigation, and I dare him, if he did, he should publish whatever he did in Numa. Again, after he publishes the 4 p.m. results, I called him and introduced myself as a campaign manager for Baba Jamal and wanted to know how he arrived at his decision. And according to him, that is what he has been doing all over, and he did the same thing in Akotia, and we didn't complain. And I'm telling him that, look, if you do the same thing in Akotia is different. Here we are in East Ayawaso, Songo community, Muslim community. So if you are claiming you have done something that is favoring the woman, publish it. Because before him, other institutions have also done their work, basing it on the delegate list. So if you have a delegate list, a delegate election on Saturday, and you claim you have done a poll, and the poll was not meant for the delegate election, why do you publish it ahead of the delegate election?
Okay. Currently, if you want to look at one of the credible pollsters in Ghana, he's one of them. Okay. But this your comment dents his credibility. Of
course, and I told him yesterday that tomorrow's result will even dent his credibility even more. Yes, tomorrow's results will even dent his credibility even more, because from what I see, it was like kind of somebody has paid him to publish something to favor somebody, and that will dent his credibility, I'm telling you.
Okay, but this very poster you are taking is normal, because actually the person is from your camp, so obviously you don't accept a poll if it goes against your candidate.
I am not telling you we are against polls. I am telling you other people have done their polls based on the delegate list.
Okay.
Well, you have Baba Alhaji, who is a spokesperson for Baba Jamal. Interesting allegations he's making there, saying that Musa Dankwa might dent his image in the upcoming by-elections. Well, we have to see really how everything will pan out in that election. Let's bring in now Mahdi Jibril, who is the NDC Deputy Director of Elections and IT, for more on this. Good afternoon, sir. Now, is the party fully ready for the primary in Ayawaso East?
Let me make a small correction. I'm the acting director of elections, not
right.
Deputy Director. Now, if we are ready for tomorrow's election, so far there have not been any issues that any of the aspirants have raised against the process. Today, this morning, we have handed over the electoral process to the Electoral Commission. That is the ballot papers and the register of the election for the election, witnessed by the agents of the aspirants for the election. The venue for the election, NEMA cluster of schools is ready for the election. Police have been engaged and they are taking over the venue from today. So everything for the election, I would say, is ready.
Now, if you can walk us through what delegates should expect on the voting day.
On the voting day, delegates are expected to come with a voter ID card or a Ghana card. They will also come with accreditation. At the entrance, they will go through the register and be checked before allowing to enter the premises. That's where the elections will take place. After that, the delegate, if you are carrying a phone, the phone will be taken from you by the police. You go through the process of voting from the checking your name in the register, checked if you are in, then you go through the process of picking the ballot paper and then cast your vote and leave. And this is the process of the election.
And have there been any measures put in place to ensure safety, security ahead of the polls?
Yes, after the members of the police, we have handed over the security issues to the police, and I believe the police will do their work well tomorrow.
Right. Many thanks for your time. Mahdi Jibril is the acting director of elections for an IT for the National Democratic Congress. Let's do some more stories. And infrastructure development in the Kintampo North Municipality is seeing a significant surge as local leadership reports the successful rollout of 7 major projects funded through the 2025 Common Fund. Now, during a recent inspection tour of project sites, both the municipal chief executive and the member of parliament for Kintampo North expressed high levels of satisfaction with the pace and quality of ongoing work, citing continuity as the backbone of the current administration's success.
The MCE highlighted that the 2025 Common Fund allocation has been strategically distributed across education, healthcare and urban infrastructure. The 7 awarded projects include a 3-classroom block, Chiefs compound, 2 traffic light installation and hospital expansion aimed at reducing congestion, improve education and bolster healthcare.
With the whole Common Fund we have gotten in 2025, we have awarded 7 projects in all. 3 of them are classrooms, One is a chip compound, and we have 2 traffic lights and a health facility at the municipal hospital. In going around and looking at the projects, I think all in all, I want to say I am so impressed with it. And the work we have come to see so far and the pace at which the contractor is working, we are really well satisfied with it. He's at the level of casting, which is almost 85 to 90% complete.
The MP attributed the high quality of work to the selection of experienced contractor.
So far, excellent, because we are lucky to have a certified GET fund contractor who has been in the system for years. I can only say thumbs up to them and the contractor. And then also to add that we are pleased that so far so good. A government that has come has not stopped any projects and say continue. We will be talking of commissioning soon and not evaluation of former government projects.
With several projects nearing 90% completion mark, municipal authorities expect a series of commissioning ceremonies in the coming months. These developments are expected to significantly ease the infrastructure deficit in Kintampona, particularly in the health and education sectors.
Now, President John Dramani Mahama says Ghana is on track to exit the International Monetary Fund (IMF) program by April 2026, following improvements in key economic indicators. Speaking at the Ghana-Zambia Business Dialogue in Lusaka, he said inflation has eased, foreign reserves have improved, and investor confidence is returning after recent fiscal reforms. President Mahama noted that the stabilization economy positions Ghana to expand trade and investment, particularly under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Through decisive reforms, fiscal discipline, and bold policy choices, Ghana has stabilized its economy and restored confidence. Inflation has declined markedly, international reserves have improved, and our credit ratings have been upgraded, signaling renewed global confidence in Ghana's economic management. The Ghana cedi, our currency, has stabilized and investor sentiments have rebounded, as reflected in rising foreign direct investment inflows. We're on track to successfully conclude our IMF program by April 2026, demonstrating our firm commitment to fiscal sustainability, structural reform, and long-term economic transformation. These gains provide a solid foundation for Ghana's development agenda, which is anchored on 5 strategic pillars. 1, industrialization and value addition. 2, export-led growth. 3, modern infrastructure development. 4, strong support for MSMEs, women and youth entrepreneurs. And 5, a predictable, transparent, and investor-friendly business environment.
Meanwhile, President John Dramani Mahama says there's a deliberate attempt to promote the local textile industry following public discussion over his decision to wear a smock during his recent state visit to Zambia. The president spoke to journalists defending his choice of attire, explaining that the move is aimed at highlighting locally produced fabrics and encouraging patronage of made-in-Ghana clothing.
Okay, it's called a smock in English, but in our language, some people call it fugu, some call it batakari. Yeah. Now, this is a traditional dress that is made by a local industry. It's part of our culture. And so, in the past, it was worn by kings, royalty, and also warriors. When our warriors were going to war, they wore smocks. And the belief was that the smocks were soaked in some herbs and then some spiritual thing was done. So when you fire a bullet, it can't penetrate, you know. And so the smock portrays a lot of things in our culture. And significantly, on the day Ghana, the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence, on the day our independence was declared, our president, Kwame Nkrumah, was wearing a smock. He and all.
We had the President John Dramani Mahama talking about the importance and the origin of the smock as he continues his visit in Zambia. And that's all we have for you for the Midday News Radio on 3FM 92.7. My name is Judith Brown. A pleasure coming to you this afternoon. Do stay tuned. Business is up next. Good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Bank of Ghana tightens credit reporting with new directive targeting loan defaults. And government statistician Dr. Idrisu urges strict fiscal discipline as Ghana's inflation hits 27-year low.
The overall trend is positive. This creates space for planning, confidence, and recovery. For government, it's important to sustain the fiscal discipline.
Plus, government chases sixth consecutive win amid 4.98 billion cedis Treasury bill auction today. My name is Judith Brown. We have details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Welcome once again to the bulletin. We start from here. Now, in a decisive move to bolster the nation's financial stability, the Bank of Ghana, BOG, has issued a formal directive requiring all participating institutions to strictly submit credit data on individuals and businesses to license bureaus. The directive aims to eliminate information asymmetry, a situation where lenders lack a clear picture of a borrower's total debt. There's more in this report.
In a notice issued by the Financial Stability Department on February 5, 2026, the central bank said institutions must engage XDS Data Ghana Limited, Dan and Bradstreet Credit Bureau Limited, or My Credit Score Limited to obtain credit information or submit required data. The directive is in line with Credit Reporting Act 2007, Act 726, which established the credit reporting system to promote the sharing of credit information among lenders and other users. The system benefits both lenders and borrowers by improving credit risk assessment, reducing credit cost, and lowering non-performing loans. It's noted that since becoming operational in 2010, the system has helped improve credit quality in the financial sector. The central bank added that the scope of participating institutions was expanded in 2021 to include telecommunication companies, utility providers, retailers, mobile money operators, fintech firms, and government agencies that provided credit to small and medium-sized businesses. Other participants include student loan schemes and suppliers offering goods and services on postpaid or installment terms. Under current rules, institutions must submit credit data within 72 hours of granting credit and obtain credit reports before approving new facilities as part of efforts to strengthen discipline and reduce default across the economy. Under current rules, institutions must submit credit data within 72 hours of granting credit and obtain credit reports before approving new facilities as part of efforts to strengthen discipline and reduce default across the economy.
Now, Ghana has recorded its lowest inflation rate in nearly 3 decades, with headline information dropping to 3.8% in January 2026. While this marks a significant decline from the 5.4% recorded in December 2025 and the 13th consecutive month of easing prices. Government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu has described the milestone as a signal that the country is firmly on the path to macroeconomic stability.
The data tell a very clear story. Inflation has fallen sharply and consistently over the year. Price pressures are easing across most components of the CPI. While challenges remain, particularly in some regions and food categories, the overall trend is positive. This creates space for planning, confidence, and recovery. For government, it's important to sustain the fiscal discipline, continue efforts to stabilize food prices, and invest in storage, irrigation, transport, and market access to reduce regional disparities. For businesses, easing inflation provides room to invest in efficiency, strengthen local supply chains, reduce unnecessary costs, and translate savings into more stable prices for consumers. For households, this is a good time to plan budget with greater confidence. prioritize essentials, avoid non-essential spending, and save where possible.
Meanwhile, a senior fellow at the Africa Policy Lens, Dr. Eric Boachi-Adom, has suggested that the rapid deceleration of prices indicates that Ghana could enter a deflationary cycle before the end of the first half of the year. This follows the Ghana Statistical Services report indicating inflation dropped to a 5-year low of 3.8% in January 2026.
While initial forecasts for 2025-2026 suggested a steady return to single-digit inflation, a sharp dip in January inflation to 3.8% has shifted the conversation. The trend shows the country is hurtling toward deflation much faster than originally anticipated.
I think we should be approaching a negative inflation earlier than mid-year, but it also raises concern about the numbers that the GSS is churning out and the reality on the market. If you look at an item like transport, that has already recorded a deflation of 5.9% per the figures from the GSS. It means that all other things being equal, the year-on-year inflation on transport shows that transport prices are declining. You can see that prices have been relatively the same, and even price for ride-hailing services has rather gone up in some cases. If we take transportation from Nanakrom to Accra, it's about 12 cities, and it has been that for over 6 months or even 12 months.
But while the numbers look positive for the macroeconomy, Dr. Boachi-Adom is raising a red flag regarding the on-the-ground reality.
In as much as that we are expecting price stability, the numbers reported by the DSS, in many cases, do not support the price on the market. So maybe I think the GSS need to recheck or maybe cross-check the numbers, so that the government can 100% rely on it. Because if monetary policies and other important government policies are based on these numbers and we don't cross-check them properly, we may end up being ill-informed.
The January 2026 inflation of 3.8% marks the 13th consecutive month of decline.
Now, government of Ghana returned to the domestic market today with an ambitious treasury bill auction across all tenors aimed at sustaining a month-long streak of investor confidence. The treasury targeted 4.976 billion cedis in the latest fundraising efforts. A successful result would mark the 6th consecutive oversubscription in just ended 5 weeks of the year. Now, there's more in this report.
The domestic debt market has shown remarkable resilience in the new year. All 5 auctions held in January 2026 exceeded their targets, signaled by high investor appetite despite fluctuating macroeconomic conditions. The consistent oversubscription suggests that local investors, primarily commercial banks and pension funds, see treasury bills as a safe haven amid broader market uncertainties. To reach the 4.976 billion cedis goal, government is offering the standard mix of short-term instruments, namely the 91-day bills, the 182-day bills, and the 364-day bills. For government, these oversubscriptions are critical. They provide the necessary liquidity to meet immediate fiscal obligations and help roll over maturing debt without putting undue pressure on the central bank. However, analysts warn that while high demand is positive, government must remain cautious about the high interest costs associated with short-term domestic borrowing. A 6th consecutive oversubscription would be a massive statement of market liquidity. It shows that despite the debates over inflation data, the appetite for government paper remains the dominant force in the financial sector. The results will serve as a key indicator for interest rate trends heading into the rest of the first quarter.
And that will be all for Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com. My name is Judith Brown. Do stay tuned. Urban Blend with Black Rasta is up next.